Good evening and welcome. Tonight, sack the service chiefs. Senate insists as it weighs in on the debate on how to tackle insecurity in Nigeria. Says new ideas needed for the fight against insurgency. House of Representatives resolve call for declaration of emergency on Nigeria's security to invite President Buhari to explain the true situation. Governors of the Northeast region back recommendation for mercenaries to be engaged in the ongoing war against terror in the region. And U.S. President-elect Joe Biden unveils key members of his economic team, including Nigerian-American Adewale Adeyemo to be first black Deputy Treasury Secretary. Plus, business, sports, and later international news from our London studios.
On business news tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari approves expansion of all programs for beneficiaries under the National Social Investments Programs of government.
And on sports news tonight, the path looks clear for Thomas Bach to be re-elected as president of the International Olympic Committee as he runs unopposed next year for a second term.
The anger arising from the gruesome murder of 43 rice farmers by insurgents in Borno State is yet to abate. And the question about how to tackle the challenge remains on the front burner. Today, lawmakers in the National Assembly stepped into the debate, with the Senate once again calling for the sacking of the nation's service chiefs. Meanwhile, in the lower legislative chamber, the lawmakers resolved to invite President Muhammadu Buhari to explain to them the true state of the country's security situation. Meanwhile, governors of the Northeast states appear to be on the same page on the way forward. They want mercenaries to enter the fray, as recommended by the Borno State Governor, Babagana Zulum. Let's begin in the National Assembly, where the murder of the rice farmers in Koshobe community of Borno State dominated discussions earlier today, first at the Senate plenary, and the former Borno State Governor, Senator Kashim Shettima, did not mince words on the security situation in the country. He warned that any government that cannot protect the lives of its citizens loses legitimacy. Senator Shettima asked President Muhammadu Buhari to remove the security chiefs and replace them with new officers to address the alarming insecurity in the country, a motion that was adopted by the Senate. Across the aisle, lawmakers in the House of Representatives also passed a resolution to invite the president to brief them on the true situation of things. They called for the declaration of a state of emergency on security matters in the country. Our correspondents Linda Akigbe and Terry Kumi kept tabs on today's proceedings.
Last weekend's shocking and extremely brutal killing of more than 40 farmers in Zabamari, Borno State is triggering this latest appeal to President Buhari to sack security chiefs in the country.
Urge the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to immediately initiate a transitionary process of phasing out the current overstate security chiefs and replacing them with new ones with new ideas and solutions.
Federal lawmakers have repeatedly asked President Buhari to sack the service chiefs, but he has refused to budge, choosing to allow them continue heading the organizations more than 5 years after they were appointed. Senators are acutely dissatisfied with President Buhari's handling of terrorism in the Northeast, which has claimed thousands of lives and displaced millions.
The Senate shall further observe that whatever it is that the security chiefs are doing presently is not working, or at least not enough. And if the President insists that the security chiefs are doing their work well, then the logical implication of such assumption is that the President, as the constitutional commander-in-chief of the country, has failed in his most rudimentary assignment of securing this nation. I hope this is not the case, and I fervently believe that this is not the case. Protecting the lives and property of citizens is the primary obligation of government, and any government that cannot discharge this basic obligation loses any iota of legitimacy.
I can tell you authoritatively that up to now, people in the war front are sharing ammunition. They are not well kitted. Last week, the people came to me here in Abuja to beg me to contribute money so that they will pay the insurgents who say they must pay, if they want to go to their farm and pay, they must pay 1 million.
Besides asking President Buhari to sack service chiefs, the Senate approves other recommendations after the debate. They include urge the president to take immediate steps to restructure and revamp the country's entire security architecture and provide enough state-of-the-art weapon and equipment. Urge the president to immediately initiate the probe into widespread allegations of corruption and leakages within the security structure. President Buhari has not implemented previous recommendations from the Senate calling for the sack of the service chiefs, and even some resolutions from the Security Summit organized in the 8th and 9th Assembly. Now, should the president refuse to sack the service chiefs, it's not clear what federal lawmakers intend to do about it. I'll hand over to Terry Kumi in the House of Representatives, where security matters also formed a huge part of discussions.
Well, thank you, Linda. In the House of Representatives, it was a rather different and slightly interesting situation, which almost led to a rowdy session, prompting the House to go into a closed-door session. Representative Ahmed Satomi presents the resolutions of a motion on the urgent need to condemn and investigate the insane killing of unarmed farmers in Jere local government area of Borno State.
To urge the federal government to declare a state of emergency in the nation's security sector. Condemn the killing of unarmed civilian and farmers of Zabarmari village of Jere Federal Constituency in Borno State by suspected Boko Haram insurgency.
Just as the motion is about to be voted on, one of the 9 other sponsors of the motion raises a point of order.
My name is there as a first person, and I raise my hand. I want to contribute as a first person to that particular motion. And I realized by the time he was reading the motion, the prayers, he eliminated some prayers that we have all agreed. I gave out my life because of my people. Everybody that is a private plan. So I tell nobody except God. The resolution we put is that we are going to invite Mr. President to come and explain.
Well, this is an appeal from the chair. Because we are talking about security matters, you and I know that the channel of discussion of security matters, such as this, will not be to invite the president to come and disclose issues of security and what they are doing. It will be counterproductive.
The Speaker's appeal does not sail, as some members insist that the amendment to the motion must be taken, and this forces a closed-door session.
The leadership of the House should meet Mr. President in the villa to discuss this issue so that they will come back and brief the House.
I'm a little disappointed where, and I make it bold to say, well, a lot of this noise and shouting down there, where it's coming from. We all know, and I'm very disappointed. So now I think I will just resolve to executive session and resolve this matter.
After about an hour, the doors are flung open and the amendment is taken.
My amendment is to invite Mr. President to come to the House to explain the security situation in the country.
A date for the president to appear is yet to be announced, and there are concerns that it may not be, especially since this is not the first time that the House of Representatives has passed such a resolution without a given date. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And as the debate rages in the National Assembly, governors of the Northeast region are throwing their weight behind the request by the Borno State governor for the federal government to engage mercenaries in the ongoing fight against Boko Haram insurgents terrorizing the region. The Taraba State Governor, Darius Ishaku, said this in Maiduguri when he and his counterparts in the region paid a sympathy visit to the Borno State Governor, Babagana Zulum. Governor Ishaku said the request was in order in the face of the continued attacks in Borno in particular and some parts of the northeast. Governor Zulum expressed appreciation to the delegation for their concern.
All of us, the governors, are pleading with the federal government to find a finality of solution to the issue of the Boko Haram. because if we neglect it, it will get even worse. It's already worse, bad enough. We also would like to call on the federal government to look at the Northeast with sympathy. It's embarrassing that the whole budget, what is given to Northeast is 0.5% in the whole budget. It's embarrassing. 0.35, I'm being corrected.
On behalf of the government and people of Borno State, I wish to sincerely convey my deep appreciation to all of you for finding time within this year busy schedule to commiserate with us over this dastardly act. The promotion of the Northeast Governors Forum is very important. Within the short span of the establishment of the Northeast Governors Forum, we were able to identify our identities, which is very important. Understanding the issues that are bedeviling the entire South region.
Meanwhile, terrorist group Boko Haram is claiming responsibility for the killing of the farmers in Borno State. At least 43 bodies of the victims were recovered and buried on Sunday. But according to the BBC, Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau claims in a video released by the group that the sect killed 78 farmers. This is coming as outrage mounts over the attack described as the worst in recent months. Staying with the Borno killings, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has assured Nigerians of the federal government's resolve to improve security in the country. He gave the assurance while speaking to journalists in Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital, today. His comment is in reaction to the murder of the rice farmers in Borno State.
The conventional means of dealing with some of these issues, the conventional means of dealing with the security type of challenges, especially the randomness, is probably, we probably need to keep reviewing that, and which is why the president has said that, he's taking a serious look at how to deal with the issues, especially around the randomness. Because, some insane person goes into a place and shoots people down. That's not the sort of thing that you are prepared for conventionally. So we have to do a lot more local intelligence, which is, a lot more local intelligence. Some of the community policing efforts that we're trying to do, so that information is supplied faster, especially at the local level, and then reaction may then be possible. But it's a major tragedy. It's a very, very unfortunate thing, and our hearts and with the families of those who were killed in such a terrible manner. But we're very confident that the federal government, will continue to do what it needs to do, especially in terms of trying to assure security.
A former theatre commander of Operation Lafia Dole, Major General Olusegun Adeniyi, has been convicted by a military court in Abuja over allegations of violating the use of social media for personnel of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, which specifically forbids personnel from posting any video, audio, material, pictures during exercises and operations. The court-martial found the Major General guilty of producing a video on the counter-insurgency operation in the Northeast in a manner deemed embarrassing to the image of the armed forces. The Major General has now been demoted by at least 3 years, while his orderly, Tokunbo Obanla, a private, was also found guilty and sentenced to 28 days in jail with hard labor. In part 2, after the break, Senate confirms Professor Mahmoud Yakubu as chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission for a second term. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Sack the service chiefs, Senate insists as it weighs in on the debate on how to tackle insecurity in Nigeria. says new ideas needed for the fight against insurgency. House of Representatives resolve call for declaration of emergency on Nigeria's security to invite President Buhari to explain the true situation. Governors of the Northeast region back recommendation for mercenaries to be engaged in the ongoing war against terror in the region. And U.S. President-elect Joe Biden unveils key members of his economic team, including Nigerian-American Adewale Adeyemo to be first black Deputy Treasury Secretary. The Senate has confirmed Professor Mahmood Yakubu as INEC chairman for a second and final term in office. President Muhammadu Buhari had sent a request for confirmation of Professor Yakubu's employment after his tenure expired in October. Mr. Yakubu was first appointed INEC chairman in November 2015, taking over from Atahiru Jega, who supervised the 2015 general election. His confirmation was sequel to the presentation of the report of the Senate Committee on INEC. Any time from now, the former chairman of the defunct Pension Reform Task Team, Abdul Rashid Maina, will be extradited back to Nigeria from Niger Republic to continue his trial over alleged 2 billion naira fraud. In a statement, the Nigeria Police Force explains that it's perfecting his extradition process to Nigeria. According to the police, Mr. Maina, who earlier jumped bail, was arrested last night in Niamey through the combined efforts of the Nigeria Police, Interpol Abuja, and their Nigerian counterparts, and is currently in a detention facility in Niger Republic, awaiting the completion of the extradition process. Mr. Maina and his company are facing a 12-count charge of money laundering to the tune of 2 billion naira. The court had ordered his trial to continue in absentia after he jumped bail in September. His surety, Senator Ali Ndume, was also remanded in prison for about 4 days until he was released last week Friday. In the aftermath of the NSAS protest, the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry on Restitution for Victims of SARS-related abuses and other matters continued its sitting today, with one of the petitioners, Ndukwe Ekekwe, narrating how he broke his spine sometime in 2018 when some policemen attached to the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, allegedly threw him out of the window of a 2-story shopping complex in Alaba, in Ojo area of Lagos. Under cross-examination by the counsel to the police, the petitioner was emphatic that he knew at least one of the officers involved and even went a step further to produce a photograph of the investigating police officer, Hamza Aruba, who allegedly led the policeman to his shop in Alaba. He also supplied the officer's telephone number. The chairman of the panel, however, asked the police to produce their witnesses before the panel to expedite the judgment process.
It is true that you are aware that we are arrested for offense of receiving stolen properties.
Nothing like that. They all the way to where I did. We were there my shop. I buy them from the importers.
Can you produce them before this panel?
I don't already produce them and you hold them.
Sir?
I don't already produce them. You do the receipt already with that. I don't provide hands that will break my night. Don't carry everything within my shop. Pack out the goods within my shop. Put everything within my shop.
Any record of a conversation between you and the medical doctor is played before this panel to show that you admitted you jumped by yourself in a big place.
Sir? Muna nervous. They pushed me from 2-story building. My brother. If they push you from 2-story building, you will get something to explain.
Ndogwe,
sir,
who exactly pushed you?
Sana, from back then they pushed me. I don't know who pushed me.
Panel has a timeline.
We are aware, sir.
We cannot wait indefinitely for any.
We are aware, sir.
If you cannot find your men, that is it.
Yes, sir. We are aware, sir.
We're not going to go at the pace of the respondents. Where you don't present your case, the matter will be taken as undefended. So, I am sure you will have nothing less than 50 petitions by the close of business today. So that gives you enough time to start searching out who the necessary IPOs or who the people complained against are. The panel will be taking a break at December. That gives you all the leeway to work very hard to present your case. We cannot continue to go at this pace.
Meanwhile, the Edo State Judicial Panel of Inquiry for Victims of SARS and Related Abuses has ordered the arrest of a retired Chief Superintendent of Police, Carol Efagbe, for her failure to appear before it to explain her alleged involvement in the murder of a 500-level student of the University of Benin, Ibrahim Omodu. 22-year-old Ibrahim Omodu of the Faculty of Laboratory Science, University of Benin, was shot dead close to his family house in Benin City, the Edo State capital, in 2013. At the resumed hearing of the case, the panel noted that the said Carol Efagbe, who was then Divisional Police Officer of Ogida, ought to have appeared before it to explain her role in the killing of Omodu if she had nothing to hide from members of the public. To the oil and gas sector, the federal government says it's making it a priority to unlock and harness the potential of the country's huge gas resources to increase industrial power supply, raise living standards, and support sustainable economic growth and diversification. President Muhammadu Buhari made the comments today at the unveiling of the National Gas Expansion Program in Abuja. The president, who joined the event virtually, says Nigeria is joining the league of other countries to key into the global shift from crude oil to gas. Our correspondent Olu Phillips reports.
It's official. The federal government has thrown its weight to support the transition to cleaner, safer energy solutions for the consuming Nigerian public. Call it a jolly good ride for one of the country's economic enabler, the oil and gas sector, and you may not be wrong, as homegrown solutions are emerging across the country, whether it be the newly commissioned modular refinery in the southeast or the transition from carbon-emitting energy utilization to a green technology. The president is on hand to do the honors. Here at the country's capital, a catalyst is being triggered. The federal government is unveiling cars and passenger vehicles that has been converted from engines running on petrol to autogas or LPG and CNG.
As key strategy, I have directed the Minister of State, the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, and all managers of the Natural Gas Expansion Program to adopt a market-led approach in the implementation of their mandate. The program will focus on encouraging investments through the establishment of conducive and enabling environment in order to encourage and galvanize potential investors in the gas subsector of our resource-rich economy.
The initiative is envisaged to provide 2 million jobs per annum, promote skills acquisition, and enhance technology transfer and grow the nation's GDP.
Selected stations across all 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory will start the installation of facilities for gas products and conversion capabilities. The process is now well on course, as we can see today.
From this location, 15,000 other locations are in the offing, about 1 million conversion kits, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is leading the charge.
NNPC
will provide free conversion service in some selected NNPC retail stations to assist interested motorists switch from PMS to autogas, especially in areas with existing autogas service stations in the Federal Capital Territory, Kaduna, Kano, Kogi, Kwara, Ogun, Ondo, Oyo, Lagos, Edo, Delta, and Rivers State and Bayelsa State. NNPC is expanding this initiative to all NNPC retail stations across the nation, while assuring motorists of steady availability of autogas at competitive prices.
By the same stretch, this gas expansion project will boost utilization, provide additional choice of fuel, cheaper than the price of PMS, cleaner for our environment, and better for automobiles and other engines. Olo Phillips, Channels Television News.
When the news at 10 returns, President Muhammadu Buhari approves expansion of all programs for beneficiaries under the National Social Investment Program of the government. That's on Business News. Please join us again.
Thanks a lot, Olumide. Welcome to Business News. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the expansion of all programs under the National Social Investment Programs of the federal government. In a tweet made today, the presidency says the expansion include increase of N-Power program beneficiaries from 500,000 to 1 million, increase in government enterprise and empowerment program beneficiaries by 1 million, and increase in beneficiaries of homegrown school feeding program by 5 million. At the presentation of the 2021 Appropriation Bill on October the 8th, President Buhari mentioned that the National Social Investments Programs would be funded with 420 billion naira in 2021, while the National Social Housing Program would be funded with 20 billion naira from the 2021 budget. Meanwhile, the president has sent the 2020 finance bill to the House of Representatives for consideration and passage. The Speaker of the House, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, made this known while reading out President Buhari's letter to lawmakers at Tuesday's plenary session. The bill proposes several amendments to current financial and tax regulations to mitigate the negative economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the country. And now the central bank has approved the release of excess above minimum cash reserve requirement of banks. In a statement released today, the CBN says the move is part of measures to improve liquidity and support economic recovery through the increased extension of credit facility to the real sector. The financial market regulator explains that it intends to accomplish the release of the excess CRR through the issuance of special bills, while it continues to monitor bank utilization of the liquidity from the excess cash reserve requirement. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, Russia and other allies have postponed the scheduled meeting for today till Thursday this week after the group of oil producers failed to reach an agreement over an extension to its production cut agreement. The meeting, which was set out to discuss an increase in production in January as planned, or maintain the cuts that have helped create a rally in oil prices. Meanwhile, Brent crude was down 1.09% at $47.37 a barrel at 9:45 p.m. local time today, while US dropped by 1.76% to $44.54 a barrel. Well, December is getting off to a good start for the equities market as the bull run recorded last month continues into the end of Tuesday's trading session on more bargain hunting by investors. Bisi Adebayo tells us more.
Thank you for joining us on the Stock Market Report. Call it a good start to the new month of December, and you may not be wrong. Well, that's because the bull maintained its dominance on the market today, thanks to investors' renewed satisfaction in the banking sector. That led to a 2.27% increase in the banking index, and traders say this is a reflection of investors' confidence in that sector following the recent earnings reports released by the banks, which also signals hopes of good dividend returns. Well, looking at the all-share index now, we saw a 0.3% increase today. However, on the activity charts, activities were low today compared to last week, and this just goes ahead to show that investors are taking it easy and readjusting for further investment. The financial services sector dominated the top trades, as reflected in the contribution of Access Bank and FENH. And these were the top three gainers and losers for the day. Traders believe things will definitely get better in the coming days. We'll see how that goes. And that's it on the stock market reports. I'm BC Adebayo.
And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Shobowale. It's back to you, Olumide.
Thank you, Tenny. Seplat Petroleum Development Company has launched its Teachers Empowerment Program, STEP, with a 5-day residential workshop introductory phase for over 143 beneficiaries, 100 teachers and 43 chief inspectors of education drawn from Edo and Delta states. The introductory phase kicks off a program specially designed to provide teachers with training on teaching applications for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. 75% of the 100 teachers are from public schools, while the other 25% are from private schools.
Let's listen to him. The first set of beneficiaries of the Seplat Teachers Empowerment Program, STEP, shared their understanding of the program on the last day of a 5-day residential workshop introductory phase in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
The teacher will be confident, teamwork and problem solving.
100 teachers and 43 chief inspectors of education from Edo and Delta states make up the beneficiaries in the maiden edition of STEP.
We can't thank Seplat and MPDC enough for choosing education, investing massively as part of their social corporate responsibility to see how we can catch them young and build a better Nigeria. The fact is, our dear country cannot remain like this. We must dare to do things differently, and it has to start with our educational system.
The beneficiaries are provided electronic devices to continue the training on the Seplat Online Teachers Resource Center, which provides inclusive learning, highlighting best techniques and practices, implementing the science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics STEAM teaching methods. The beneficiaries consider even the introductory phase an eye-opener.
I can now examine myself, evaluate myself as I go back, and I make sure I pass the message to the students.
They have really impacted us, and I'm so grateful that it has been an opportunity for me, that I've learned so much.
Seplat believes STEP reinforces its widely acclaimed track record of supporting quality education.
We have built an online e-learning platform which in the course of the next 3 months, they would have opportunity to access programs they will use to teach STEAM education in their secondary schools. We're expecting that this will complement our other educational program, the Seplat Pearls Quiz, and it will enhance the students' academic performance. It will also boost the confidence of teachers to teach and get the students to pass the examinations.
Seplat also recently concluded another educational program, the Seplat Pearls Quiz, with St. Michael's College, Benin, emerging winner of the 7 million Naira grand prize. The company is optimistic its initiatives would further deepen outstanding standards of education.
Abiola Fashino, a medical laboratory scientist at the University of Lagos Medical Center, has emerged the winner of the maiden edition of the ISN Medical Laboratory Scientist of the Year Award. At the grand finale of the event, which held in Lagos, the Executive Director of ISN Products Nigeria Limited, Mr. Felix Ofogu, explains that the award is aimed at encouraging and promoting excellence amongst medical laboratory scientists in Nigeria.
It's a night of recognition and reward
For the unsung heroes in the medical practice, particularly medical laboratory scientists, who have contributed to saving lives amidst the COVID-19 pandemic.
We've always believed that proper and adequate patient care is only as good as the accuracy of the diagnosis that the patient receives. And the responsibility for that diagnosis is largely borne by the medical laboratory scientists.
A representative of the Minister of State for Health and other practitioners commended the convener of the award, ISN Products Nigeria Limited, for instituting the ISN Medical Laboratory Award of the Year initiative.
I am very pleased with the very detailed efforts, with the very detailed process, and with the quality of people that would choose who these award winners would be.
I don't know why you're not clapping unless you want to help me give them.
From the over 600 entries, finalists are now down to 10. And the chairman of the jury explains the rationale behind the selection.
We properly laid out criteria, which included professional, educational, technical practice. Here we had to have evidence of internal quality control and external quality assurance.
With bated breath, the audience anticipates the announcement of the winner.
The winner goes to Mr. Abiola Fosino! To celebrate your service to humanity.
I feel elated to be the winner of the maiden edition, but beyond happiness and sense of joy, I feel inspired to do more.
The commitment from the management of ISN Products Nigeria Limited is to encourage quality medical science practice. As demonstrated through this initiative, members can now look forward to next year when their efforts will again be rewarded.
I hope that you look back this day, every other day.
Still ahead on the news at 10. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden unveils key members of his economic team, including Nigerian-American Adewale Adeyemo and more from our London studio in Around the World in 5. Please stay with us. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has introduced key members of his economic team, which he believes will help build the American economy back and better than it was before. Led by Janet Yellen, the first woman to serve as Treasury Secretary, the new team includes Nigerian-American Adewale Adeyemo, who will be the first black Deputy Treasury Secretary. Let's join our London studio now, where Simon Pusey has more international news on Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. China has accused Australia of trying to deflect public attention from alleged war crimes by its soldiers in Afghanistan after the Australian government expressed outrage over what they called a repugnant tweet. The tweet of a fake image of an Australian soldier killing an Afghan child is still on the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman's Twitter feed, despite Australia demanding an apology. Beijing has now said that Australia was trying to blame China for the worsening of bilateral ties. Relations between the two nations have plummeted to a new low in recent days. The controversial coronavirus advisor of President Donald Trump has resigned.
As the vice president mentioned.
In a letter, Scott Atlas thanked Mr. Trump for the opportunity and said he always relied on the latest science and evidence without any political consideration or influence. During his 4 months at the White House, Dr. Atlas cast doubts on the need for masks and other measures to control the pandemic. The senior fellow at Stanford University also sparked controversy when he tweeted, "People rise up," after Michigan imposed new restrictions.
Single one of us, me included, is tired of this.
The United States has so far failed to control the pandemic, and according to the New York Times, 13.6 million COVID-19 cases have been reported and more than 200,000 Americans have died. One of the oldest British retailers, Debenhams, has been forced to close its doors, putting 12,000 jobs at risk. Debenhams said 124 of its stores will not reopen after the failure of last-ditch efforts to rescue the chain. The news comes after Topshop owner Arcadia also fell into administration, putting another 13,000 jobs at risk. Sir Philip Green's retail empire failed to secure extra funding to pay its debts after the pandemic affected sales. The group, which runs 444 stores in the UK and 22 overseas, said that already 9,294 employees are on furlough. New analysis suggests the goals of the UN Paris Climate Agreement are within reach. The Climate Action Tracker Group looked at new climate promises from China and other nations, along with carbon plans from the US President-elect Joe Biden. These commitments would mean the rise in world temperatures could be held to 2.1 Celsius by the end of this century. Previous estimates indicated up to 3 Celsius of heating, with disastrous impacts. But experts are still worried that the long-term optimism is not matched by short-term plans to cut CO2. Meanwhile, Brazil's Amazon rainforest has suffered the worst deforestation in 12 years under President Jair Bolsonaro. That's according to Brazil's Space Research Agency. They reported there has been a 9.5% increase from last year, saying an area 7 times the size of London has been lost this year alone. Bolsonaro, since coming to power in 2018, has defended his decision of deforestation by arguing that clearing land for farming can help reduce poverty. Vice President Hamilton Mourão said that 9.5% increase is an improvement from 34% in 2019. This year, fires have also devastated huge areas of the Amazon, further jeopardizing the world's biggest rainforest. A sailor who went missing 2 days ago off Port Canaveral on Florida's east coast has been found alive, despite spending at least 24 hours clinging to his capsized boat. The US Coast Guard says that a passing 225-foot container ship named Angeles spotted Stuart B. clinging to his motorboat, which was 86 miles from shore. The crew proceeded to rescue the 62-year-old from the water and brought him back to shore. And finally, around 150 people have dressed as Father Christmas and taken to the waters on jet skis along Australia's iconic Gold Coast. All in the name of charity, the parade was held in an attempt to break a previous record of 129 jet skis in a parade held in 2014. Some participants decorated their jet skis to look like sleighs, with almost 10,000 Australian dollars being raised for the residential care charity called Christmas Presents for Kids in Care. And that's your international news around the world in 5, and now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Former champion Ahmed Adeyinka reclaimed his title this year at the 52nd edition of the Ashwadroba table tennis tournament after defeating Augustine Emmanuel 4-2 to win the men's singles title. Reigning women's champion Bose Dusaya beat Kehinde Oyeniyi 4-0 to emerge as champion at the 2-day tournament, which took place at the Molade Okoya Thomas Hall of the Teslim Balogun Stadium in Lagos. International Olympic Committee, the IOC, has confirmed that President Thomas Bach will remain in office until 2025, as he will run unopposed next year for a second term. The German has ruled the IOC virtually unopposed, with the vast majority of decisions receiving unanimous support from the committee members. In the UEFA Champions League, Austria's RB Salzburg secured the priceless away victory after beating Lokomotiv Moscow 3-1, while Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich settled for a 1-1 draw. Elsewhere, Real Madrid's hopes of securing passage to the next round were dealt a huge blow after a 2-0 loss to Ukraine's Shakhtar Donetsk. Italy's Inter Milan also beat group leaders Borussia Mönchengladbach 3-2 in Germany. Man City played a goalless draw with FC Porto. Marseille beat Olympiacos 2-1. Atalanta and Midtjylland settled for a 1-0 draw, while Liverpool beat Ajax 1-0 at Anfield. Newcastle United squad have been told to stay away from their training ground following an outbreak of coronavirus. Manager Steve Bruce revealed that 3 individuals had tested positive for the virus and were isolating at home after last Friday's 2-0 victory over Crystal Palace. And that sports news is back to you, Lumide.
Thank you, Ayo. And the main news again. The Senate today insisted on the sack of the service chiefs by President Muhammadu Buhari. The lawmakers said officers with new ideas are needed for the ongoing fight against insurgency, as one of them, who is a former governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, declared that the government has no legitimacy if it fails to secure its citizens. Also today, the House of Representatives called for the declaration of state of emergency on Nigeria's security situation and resolved to invite President Buhari to explain the true situation in the country. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Good night.